to review properly to make sure that the health and safety of the American people are protected.
Well, at nearly the same time the president was speaking in Oklahoma, House Speaker John Boehner was in Washington, D.C., minimizing the president's move.
The president's down here in Oklahoma taking credit for a part of the pipeline that's going to go through the normal process. It's already gotten its approvals. And this idea that the president is going to expedite this will have no impact.
Well, there you go. The politics continues. Joining me right now is Republican Congressman from Oklahoma, James Lankford. Thank you, Congressman, and MSNBC political analyst and editor-at-large of Salon, Joan Walsh. What is the problem with this pipeline? Why is it a political issue, Congressman? Why isn't it being built? Why, if it isn't being built, is that an opportunity to slam the president?
It's not being built, and that is the frustration. When the president said Congress jumped into it, the previous pipeline that went from Canada into the United States across that border, same company, same process, took 24 months to permit. This one is at 44 months and climbing. And so the frustration is, let's get on with it. This is just another pipeline that's coming in. In fact, we passed a pipeline safety bill out of the House and the Senate. The president signed it last year, so this will be even more safe in the process.
What do you make of the charge that, or the argument that the reason there's a slowness in getting this approved is there is an endangerment of people's water wells, that people have wells all along the Northwest pipeline route, and along that route there are people who get their water from the ground, and if you start running pipeline through it, you can, with pipelines, by the way, leak. They do leak. You're endangering their water sources.
Well, here's the problem with that. If you actually looked at a map of that underground aquifer that runs from Nebraska all the way south into Texas, if you looked at a map of that aquifer and then also laid the pipeline map on top of it, there are thousands of miles of pipeline that already run from that aquifer. Now, I'm all for the people of Nebraska being able to determine the route for it, but it's difficult to say we've got to make sure this pipeline doesn't go through this aquifer when there are thousands and thousands of miles of pipeline already there.
But isn't this a 10-lane highway of pipeline? Isn't this exponentially a greater highway for oil and therefore a more troubling concern?
No, sir. This actually will be the safest pipeline ever. We just put in new safety regulations through the House and the Senate last year the president signed on to. So this has to meet those excessive new safety regulations on that. So it's a very big deal to get a chance to protect water. But we're not in a situation where we're worried about every pipeline. If you look at our pipeline map, we have thousands of miles of pipeline.
You know, back in the 70s when I was first doing investigative reporting, I did a little study before I went to work for Nader, and there was 125,000 miles of pipeline in the United States, oil pipeline. You know how many inspectors there were? One.
Well, I'll tell you what.
So I'm not so confident as you are about pipeline safety. Let me go to Joan on this. Joan, you and I are generalists, not experts on this kind of thing. But politically, I see the president in a problem area here. To be halfway for something endangers you. It makes you enemies on both sides.
Right, it does.
Take it from a
so
centrist. I know what it's like.
Yeah, you get kicked from both sides, and you know, some days if we're centrist, we say, well, we must be doing something right. We've got everybody mad at us, but sometimes when everybody's mad at you, maybe you're a little bit wrong. And I think the president has a very tricky position here, Chris. It's very classic Barack Obama. He wants to be the man middle. He wants to be the man of moderation. He wants to split the baby, not literally, and he wants to come up with a compromise that works. I just don't think it's possible here, you know, and you've really covered what the safety risks are. Also, in terms of what this does to consumers, this could even actually raise prices rather than bring them down. This oil goes straight to the Gulf. Most of it goes, if not all of it, goes to the international market. Doesn't do anything for domestic gas prices. He just has to hope that people aren't paying attention.
Joan, I agree with you. I understand it's all fungible, Congressman. It gets to the Gulf. Once it's been refined, it's open to international sale. There's no restriction on keeping it here in America.
But the vast majority of that oil is refined in the Gulf region and comes right back in the United States. Same with the oil that's coming out of Canada. What we've got to understand is we're at a new high here. 58% of the oil that we use, that we produce in America, is being used in America. And so that 58% of all the oil, we're not exporting the vast amount. The president's dead on that we're producing more. But if you take Canada, Mexico, and the United States, put the three of us together in pipelines, it's right at 80% of all the oil that we would use. We could finally work towards getting off of Middle East oil if we would only focus on it.
But actually, TransCanada refuses to
I know the facts.
Promise.
We can't control where that oil goes once it's refined. It's on the international market. It may come back here. It may not. Thank you, Congressman Lankford, for coming on Hardball. And yes, well, that's the way our system works, Joan, and we all love it. Joan Walsh, and we love the free enterprise system. When we return, let me finish with the staggering admission that Mitt Romney's word